How does a prison designed for social reform become known as the most haunted prison in America? Eastern State Penitentiary. Opened with progressive ideals, but developed a reputation for riots, torture, extreme isolation, psychological breakdown. More than 85,000 prisoners were held there during its operation. Welcome to the Shadow Signal, the frequency of the unknown. I'm Josh Rutledge.
And I'm Stephen Gearhart. Together we dive deep into high strangeness, UFOs, cryptids, the paranormal, psychic phenomenon, and the hidden truths that echo just beneath the surface.
Somewhere between reality and myth lies the signal. Can you hear it?
Tune in. The Shadow Signal is live. And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Shadow Signal podcast. The Shadow knows. I am your host.
Be careful, we're gonna get
sorry.
copyrighted off of that. Come on.
No,
man.
I think at this point they're under public domain. We're probably okay.
Okay.
No, I don't know. But anyways, I am Stephen Gearhart, your host for the evening, joined as ever by my co-host, who is illustrious and beautiful, Mr. Josh Rutledge. What's happening, partner?
Doing fantastic, man. You know, springtime is here, and so with it comes all the allergies, and the sneezing and the coughing.
Oh yeah, same here. So in Kentucky
nose,
right now,
and the
70 degrees.
Eyes.
So today it's 70 degrees in Louisville. This is March 15th that we're recording this, and tomorrow we're supposed to get snow.
It is presently 70 degrees in Phoenix as we're recording this, 3 hours earlier, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not expecting snow tomorrow.
No, we are, and then it's going to warm back up again, like in the next day or two after that. So
it's actually been unseasonably warm here, like in the 90s already. Yeah, I don't know if that's, hopefully not an indication that it's going to be an incredibly hot summer, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. Well, speaking of hot summers, let's go and move on to our first topic, which I don't know what that has to do with hot summers.
It's a hot go summer.
It is a hot go summer. So let's go in and talk about our psychic word of the week.
And now, the psychic word of the week.
All right, psychic word of the week is brought to you by the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary from June G. Bletzer, PhD. Rest in peace, Honey Bear. I love you, but I never got to meet you. I flipped through, and I always try to find something that catches my eye that may have to do with what we're going to be talking about today. But the phrase that came up here was subhuman being. Subhuman being is what grabbed my attention. And it says it's esoteric. It says an inferior entity or a new soul mind belonging to the human being kingdom, dwelling in the lower astral planes, exists in a body that appears unpleasant but shows human characteristics, is half man and half animal or half bird, capable of communicating with psychics who do not know the rules of psychism, fed by the energy of low negative thoughts and acts found in the earth plane. Interesting.
I wonder if any of those beings would also fit the description often used for a night hag.
A night hag, or even I thought of a cryptid like Mothman or things like that seem to be half man, half something,
Yep. Also makes, not to necessarily go too far on the religious side of things, but some angels or even sometimes describe demons being the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. It's just kind of creepy because they classified them as human beings first, not as not as the other half first.
So would Nephilim be considered subhuman?
Maybe. Half man, half bird.
Yeah. Also, it's interesting that they said half animal or bird.
Yeah.
I would have included birds as animals.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Don't jump on June G. Blitzer's stuff. Dr. Bletzer she knows what she's doing. Okay.
Yeah, maybe she meant mammals versus birds.
Maybe. I want to be half whale.
Which half?
But like a centaur, but like half whale. So like my upper body is the same size as it is right now, but then the lower part of me is a big blue whale.
So like a mermaid.
No, man, a merman.
But still, isn't that what a mermaid?
Yeah, but they just have a little fishtail. I want a giant blue whale body.
Okay.
But my human body is the same size as it is right now.
Sounds like, size envy is an issue there, Stefan.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't want no little tail. I want a big tail. I want a
big, largest tail on Earth. Big.
And I'm sure the whale lower half reproductive piece has nothing to do with it. No.
Or I would have said a sperm whale.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I had Loch Ness, all that kind of stuff. But anyways, well, that's an interesting psychic word of the week. So thank you for that, Stefan.
You're welcome. So this week we're going to be talking about something surprisingly we have never talked about. One of the most, next to Waverly, is considered one of the most haunted places in America is Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So let's get cracking. Let's talk about ESP, baby.
Yep.
The main story.
All right, so I thought it would be good to start us off with not necessarily diving directly into the prison itself, but thinking about, what, like today, we just think of prison reform as being the kind of accepted way of, criminal justice, kind of, final termination, if you will, unless you live in a state that it still allows corporal punishment or the death penalty. But before the 1700s, the normal thing for punishment would have been whipping or flogging, branding with hot irons, mutilations such as ear cropping or finger removal,
Jeez.
Stocks and pillories. I don't know what a pillory is, but I guess but it's in public squares. So like basically, you see like you're out there, you're hanging out, people are walking by throwing rotten food at you and stuff. Yeah. Or public beatings.
Yeah. Wow.
So I mean that was up until like when this new prison system was developed, which is called the Pennsylvania system, was developed in the early 1700s. So I mean that would have the idea of penitentiaries is a relatively new in the history of the world concept.
They just had like dungeons and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, well, but I would imagine those dungeons were like a throw them in there and forget about them situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But the also, in addition to all those really corporal punishment things, you also had public shaming. So, stood out in the public, and basically people would walk by and chide you for the things that you did. Adulterer, or whatever.
Yeah.
Then they also had debt and work prisons. So, if you could work off community service, if you will, but it wasn't like cleaning spray paint off of the fort. It was manual labor, and the conditions in those things were really bad. There was overcrowding, there was disease, there was very little food.
The classic chipping away of rocks.
Yeah. Many prisoners had to pay for their own food and bedding while they were in a work prison. So, and then the last kind of thing, again, this is before the penitentiary system, was exile. So, you couldn't come back into the colony. You had to become a wilderness man. That's where Sasquatch came from.
That's where I'm just going to leave that on the table. Bye.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is during that transportation exile thing, Britain actually transported prisoners to North America as the exile.
And I know Australia was a prison colony,
as the exile. So, North America was populated a lot with braggarts and thieves, apparently.
Gypsies, tramps, and thieves.
Which, if somebody's thinking about a new podcast, braggarts and thieves would make a really good podcast name.
It would.
And then, of course, the final stage was hanging, execution, firing squad, burning at the stake, beheading,
guillotine,
all of that kind of stuff. So in the 1700s, many thinkers believed that these punishments were barbaric and ineffective. Because they were. And so reformers like Benjamin Rush and the Pennsylvania Prison Society argued that punishment should focus on reflection, repentance, and moral reform, not just attacking the body, but really trying to address the mind. So this led to the Pennsylvania system, which replaced the public punishment with silent, solitary confinement intended to produce spiritual repentance.
Of course, it's always about religion.
Right? So what's interesting here is that spiritual repentance, that's where we get penitentiary.
Oh.
It's a place for repentance, penitentiary.
Yeah, because only the penitent man can pass.
Yeah. Well, apparently not, because 85,000 people went through it. But but the reform system designed to be more humane turned out to be more psychologically devastating.
Yeah.
Because they were solitary confinement.
Yep.
They in like today's prisons, when there's solitary confinement, sometimes the individuals in solitary will still exercise in a common area amongst other prisoners. They may be in a separate little area that's only for solitary confinement, but they're still outside with other prisoners, relatively close. But these actually, their outdoor time was completely alone as well. So they were completely separated from other than guards, every other human.
Which is insane. I mean, I know there's still even a movement today to get rid of solitary confinement. So it is now.
And the idea at the time is that while they're in solitary confinement, they're supposed to reflect on their crimes, read the Bible, feel remorse, and become morally reformed.
Okay.
Again, I don't want to get too far down the religious track here, but there's a lot of morally questionable things that happen in the Bible. So maybe asking them to read the Bible is not the best thing for moral reform. But
yeah, I agree.
So some of the things that talking about from a psychological impact. Okay, this is maybe this could lead to our conversations later on down the road around kind of the tortured souls, if you will. So they slept alone, worked alone, exercised alone. They never saw any other prisoners. Prisoners were forbidden to speak.
Dang.
They could not talk to other inmates or guards. The only regular human interaction was often with a chaplain or the warden. When prisoners were moved through the prison, they wore hoods over their heads. This prevented them from recognizing each other.
That's interesting.
Each prisoner had their own cell with a skylight, which was called the Eye of God, a small exercise yard, and a workspace for crafts or labor. And like I said before, the idea was that they were just going to sit there and read the Bible, meditate, or seek redemption.
Right.
So the reason why reformers thought this was more humane than the old way was that they thought it was more civilized than corporal punishment. And, in a way it is.
Yeah, right.
And instead of whipping criminals or executing them, the prison would give them time to repent and restore their moral character. But what it produced in many prisoners is lots of mental illness, hallucinations, paranoia, suicidal thoughts, and a complete psychological breakdown.
Yeah.
Charles Dickens once visited the prison. And he said, this is in 1842, he wrote that prolonged isolation was worse than the torture of any body.
Dang.
So, again, even though the system was controversial at the time, it influenced prisoners around the world. More than 300 prisons globally adopted versions of it during the 19th century. However, most eventually abandoned strict solitary confinement because of its psychological effects. So, Eastern State Penitentiary, the first prison to adopt this new method of reform.
Okay, so it's the first.
Yep, opened in 1829. The architect of it was John Haviland, and at the time, it was the most expensive building in the United States. Had a revolutionary radical cell block design using kind of a hub and spoke layout. And some visitors that included, Alexis de Tocqueville, probably saying his last name wrong, and Charles
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell, yeah, that's where they got it. Somebody mispronounced his name. Like, oh, Taco Bell, that sounds amazing.
Oh, there's another one trying to run for the border.
Another quote from Charles Dickens is that it was rigid, strict, and hopeless solitary confinement. So let's see, I'm going to skip past that because I already really covered it in depth. So some of the punishment methods, if you will, just gonna, okay, make sure that was still relevant to the prison and not the old system. I'll cut that part out. So the punishment methods were the water bath, where a prisoner was doused with ice water, chained outside in freezing temperatures until the water froze on the skin.
Jeez.
The mad chair, prisoners were strapped tightly to a chair, could remain for hours or days. Limbs swelled from lack of circulation. Straitjackets, used for extended punishment, could cut off circulation. The Hole was an underground punishment cell located below Cellblock 14. And it was basically no light, no plumbing, concrete walls, extremely confined.
Yeah.
And prisoners were sometimes held there for weeks or months.
Jeez.
In the Hole. The iron gag, one of the most brutal punishments. Prisoners' hands chained behind their back, iron clamp attached to the tongue, and chains connected to the hands. Movement caused the tongue to tear painfully.
Ooh, yeah, this was supposed to be so much better.
Oh yeah. I mean, from the Catholic Church, the people that brought you the Spanish Inquisition, comes the next breakthrough in prison development, moral reform.
Yep.
So some of the famous prisoners that came through the prison, Al Capone.
Hey, all right.
Was in there from 1929 until 1930. He was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon. And allegedly, his cell contained furniture, rugs, and a radio.
Of course it did.
Yeah, special treatment for special people.
Yep, money.
Yeah, Capone did claim that he was haunted in prison, and I'm going to get into that haunting a little bit later in the... Actually, I'm going to get into it now. So he was haunted by the ghost of Jimmy Clark, who was a victim of the St. Valentine's Day massacre.
Oh, so it was a personal ghost.
Yeah. Legend says that Capone believed Clark's ghost followed him. Other inmates heard him screaming or talking to someone, and Capone later sought help from a psychic.
Dang, I never heard that before.
Some stories claim the haunting followed him to Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary as well, which would make sense if it was a personal haunting. It doesn't matter where you go. You can't escape it.
Nope.
So some of the other people that were imprisoned there were Willie Sutton, known as Slick Willie, or the actor. He was sentenced for 25 to 50 years. He escaped with 11 inmates through a tunnel in 1945 and was recaptured the same day.
Good old Slick Willie. He's greasy.
Victor Babe Andrioli, convicted of murdering Pennsylvania State Trooper John Brosk. He was sentenced to life. He escaped in 1943, and he was killed by police during a capture attempt. Frida Frost, excellent alliteration on the name there, convicted of poisoning her husband, one of the few female prisoners. Women made up less than 3% of inmates.
So it was technically co-ed,
Yeah.
so to speak.
The last female prisoner transferred in 1923. So just kind of a very brief, we're going to get into some specific hauntings here in a little bit, but just generally visitors report apparitions, whispers, footsteps, shadow figures, cold spots, feeling touched or scratched. So yeah. Some of the more haunted cell blocks include Cellblock 12, where reports include echoing voices, laughter, whispering, shadow figures. Cellblock 4, with witnesses report including ghostly faces appearing in the walls.
Ugh.
Overwhelming sense of dread.
Well, it is a prison. So
Yep.
I can imagine that energy persists to this day.
Well, and keep in mind that, I mean, they haven't really modified anything for the most part. So all the cells are still solitary confinement. I mean, anytime for a lot of people, even if you're not claustrophobic, if you go into just a really closed in space for any long period of time, you're going to develop that kind of sense of dread.
Yep.
Cellblock 6, reports include black shadow figures moving along the walls, silhouettes sliding across corridors, and visitors also report cold spots, unexplained dread, and feeling touched. So now we'll get into some of the haunting accounts. So the locksmith incident, this is in Cellblock 4. Witness was Gary Johnson. He was a locksmith and a contractor. This was during the 1990s when they were doing some restoration work.
Okay.
So Johnson was removing an old lock from a cell door in Cellblock 4. When the lock came free, he reported feeling a powerful negative force. He said the cell seemed to release a wave of energy. According to Johnson, ghostly faces appeared in the cell walls, distorted figures formed in the masonry, and a shadow figure rushed toward him. Johnson reportedly dropped his tools and left the building immediately. This story is often cited by the prisoner's own historical tours. So next up is called the guard tower figure. So this is multiple visitors and staff have witnessed this. Several visitors over the years have reported seeing a human silhouette standing in one of the guard towers. The figure appears motionless and disappears when approached or when lights are directed toward it.
It's creepy.
Typically depicted as being tall, wearing what appears to be a guard's cap, and standing in a watch posture. No staff member has ever been confirmed to be in the tower when sightings occurred.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, is that, just energy left over, or is that
residual?
an actual ghost of a guard that died there or died somewhere else, and that was just where they went back to?
Yeah, if that was the place they felt, like if they felt so committed to being a guard in that place that when they died, they went back to serve there.
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, but it also could very much be, residual kind of, stone tape theory type situation
Yeah,
where it's just
exactly.
playing on repeat.
Yep.
So next up we have the shadow figures of Cellblock 6. So this is seen by both tour guides and visitors. And they see black silhouettes sliding across the walls, shadow figures moving quickly between cells, and witnesses say the shadows move independently of light sources,
The shadow
suggest,
knows.
suggesting they are not simply reflections.
Right.
So if you go to if you go to do a tour, you should definitely have an opportunity to check out Cell Block 6.
Yeah, for sure.
The Whispering Corridor. So this has been logged by multiple paranormal investigators. This is kind of the central hub of the prison, is where this is located. And it includes whispering voices, faint conversations, someone calling a name, and footsteps approaching from behind. This all really feels like just residual type stuff, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Still
Again,
creepy though.
it's just locked in time. Yeah, it's still creepy for sure.
Yeah.
When investigators though turn around, of course, no one's standing there. No one's there.
Nope.
And audio recorders have occasionally captured these things as unexplained voices, and none have been verified as paranormal. But they haven't. You can't prove a negative. So yeah, if no one's there and you get it on tape, what else remains? Must be the truth.
Right. Exactly.
The cackling voice in Cellblock 12. This is often by night tour groups. Cell Block 12 has reports of echoing laughter, strange cackling sounds. Can you give me a cackling sound there, Stefan? There you go. That'll work. Distant voices. Visitors often report the sounds occurring when the building is otherwise quiet and no other groups are nearby.
Yeah, dude. If I heard some cackling, I'd be gone. I'm gone.
You're gone? You're not going to stick
I'm
around?
gone.
You're not going to cackle back?
Nope. I'm gone. I don't trust cacklers.
Well, it makes you, I mean, given the psychological nature of the penitentiary, it makes you wonder, even though they weren't allowed to talk to each other, if in the nighttime, other inmates, if they did, they probably talked to each other at night when the guards were sparse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that cackling noise still could be considered, residual, if it was just something that was done in the night hours when they could sneak talking to each other, if you will.
Right. Right. Which, who wouldn't do that?
Right. So the next one is the man searching for an exit. This has been witnessed by visitors and investigators. The description is a shadowy male figure appears near older sections of the prison and seems to move slowly along the walls. Witnesses describe the figure as if it's searching for something. The figure reportedly disappears when approached. Some investigators believe the figure may represent a residual haunting of a prisoner trying to escape.
That's, yeah, especially if it's kind of sneaking.
Yeah. Always sneaking. So, like I said before, the prison was doing a renovation in the 1990s. And during that renovation, some things were captured, such as workers reported tools disappearing from work areas, doors slamming when no one was nearby. These events often occurred when workers were alone and in closed sections of the building. Several workers repeatedly refused to continue working in certain cell blocks after these incidents.
Yeah. That's always one of the weirdest paranormal things, is things coming up missing, because that, of course, brings it over to like fairies and brownies and things like that. You makes you wonder, or if ghosts are just doing that, they've become tricksters. I mean,
You know, I wrote a blog article some years ago. It was a thought that I had that um, non-residual spirits, so energies
yeah,
that are stuck in this plane, if you will,
yeah,
they might want to be noticed. They might have a
right,
want to be known, so that potentially maybe they're stuck here, just like Ghostbusters said, they're stuck on this plane and they need something to release, and maybe that release is some energetic exchange between a person who is still living.
right.
So if that's the case, moving stuff around, making themselves known, is probably the easiest way. And I think it's a good description, like Ghost, the movie Ghost.
Hmm.
When he the guy first dies, he can't interact with crap, right?
Yeah, yeah. He had to
But
learn.
he had to learn how to use his new non-physical body. And I think that's probably, I think that from my experience, I think that's true as well. Like people who have just died, when I interact with them using dowsing rods, the rod movement is very like just slow and disjointed. Like all of a sudden it'll swing one way because like they pushed it too hard or whatever.
Hmm.
So yeah, again, I mean, if it's not necessarily a trickster thing, but just they're trying to get somebody's attention,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, because of us here in Western society, where we dismiss a lot of this stuff as just being, um, we're overworked or we're tired or we're
Sure.
stressed or whatever the case may be, it falls on deaf ears.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's I was in my article. I talked about when we talked about the Philip experiment
Hmm.
that took place in I was Canada, I think. I wondered if that was not actually a psychic creation, but rather just a passing spirit that slipped into that
Yeah,
persona, if you will, so that it could get attention.
I've always wondered that. I've always wondered that.
All right, so moving on. Next, we have the feeling of being touched. Multiple visitors have reported sensations, including feeling a hand on their shoulder, a sudden push or tug, and scratching sensations. These experiences are often reported in Cellblock 14 and near the hole.
Ugh.
It reminds me of several years ago, I went and did I don't remember if you were there or not, but I went and did a tour at night of Waverly.
Hmm.
And Jason Kirk, our friend Jason Kirk, came with me.
Yeah.
And I remember he was like maybe a foot and a half ahead of me, and he was crouched down against the wall in the corridor where they turn off all the lights on like the third floor, and they have you look down this long corridor. Um, and he swears up and down that he was wearing a hoodie. He swears up and down something tugged on the hood on his jacket.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof.
So, yep.
Yep. Nope. Sadly, I still have never been to Waverly. Like I
Oh,
haven't.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I have not done a tour yet, and I live literally 5 minutes from
As
there.
I say, right now you're really close to it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, well, maybe that's a 50th
That's a good
birthday
idea.
thing.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, get a bunch of people together and go up there.
Hmm. Do
Yeah,
a night tour. Yeah, ghost hunt. That would be fun.
that would be fun. Write that down.
Yep.
um, so, anyways, again, just kind of general witnesses frequently report sudden feeling of dread or nausea, kind of immediately before or after that sensation of being touched. Which we've talked about it before too, like the idea that spirits oftentimes need to pull or absorb energy from an area in order to do things, to manifest themselves or whatever.
Hmm.
Like Waverly, and I'd imagine this place too, they've probably got most of the electricity turned off to the building,
Yeah.
if it's on at all. um, so the only energy in the space they could pull from would be people,
Is people. Yeah, or
right? What's that?
their their devices.
Or their devices, right?
Hmm.
And so that feeling of dread may be because it's siphoning energy off of you in order to
Yeah.
manifest that thing that it's doing.
I mean, that would. I mean, that's why we shield. You know.
Yep. So, I wonder if people this is when I did Waverly. This is before a time when I knew anything about shielding or grounding or anything, and so I didn't do any of that stuff. But I wonder if my experience would have been different if I had done those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So bottom line, people, when you think you're going to a haunted house or any place that you expect to be haunted, do some shielding, do some grounding.
Unless you want to be messed with.
Yeah, unless you want to be
and you want to take something home with you.
Yeah, really. That's the most important part, is that you understand that you're likely going to bring something home with you. So nobody likes a hitchhiker.
Right, especially at Waverly, and I'm sure Eastern Penitentiary.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's even worse there.
Yeah.
Because Waverly was just tuberculosis. I mean, it was just people who were sick and dying. Like, this penitentiary is like bad folks, potentially bad people that, were put through hell. So I wouldn't even imagine the negative energies that, like, part of me wants to try remote viewing the penitentiary, but if I were to do that, I would really strongly shield before doing that. So
yeah, you could take home Pep. Did you ever hear the story of Pep?
No.
Pep is the cat murdering dog that got a life sentence to Eastern Penitentiary back in 1924. The governor sentenced him for killing a cat.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. And then he was pardoned in 1929. So he was there for 5 years.
Oh.
But if you look online, look up Pep, the cat murdering dog, there's a cute picture of him with his little mugshot and his numbers, the whole 9 yards.
And yet we're sure that's not AI.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
very cool, not cool. I mean, in a way, like, how would you keep a dog from talking? Like, inmates aren't allowed to talk. Yeah. So how would you keep a dog? Like, it'd just be barking. Like, that would be its own level of psychological torture.
Well, I'm sure they just had the dog there, used it as a way to, like, keep up inmate morale. And
you think so? You think it was just an excuse?
Yeah,
excuse
that's what I think.
To get a dog in there.
Yeah,
like they bent the red tape instead of cutting it.
Yeah, because it was so. What's to say? Pep allegedly murdered the governor's wife's cherished cat, but some people think that the governor just donated his own dog to the prison to increase inmate morale.
Okay,
so but it could have just been a stunt. But he was
Yeah.
pardoned 5 years later, so.
Yeah, he claimed it. He probably claimed $1 million on his taxes. For donating his cherished dog. Anyways, so during one specific investigation by a paranormal group, they caught an EVP. So for anybody listening who doesn't know, EVP is electronic voice phenomenon. It's what we talked about just a few minutes ago, where you have a recorder and you catch a voice on it.
Yep.
So when the during a late night investigation, audio recorders were placed in several cell blocks, and investigators asked questions in empty corridors. When the recording was later reviewed, a distinct voice responding to one of the questions said, "Leave."
Man, I've heard some good EVPs, man. That would send my skin crawling.
I mean, that was my recreation. That wasn't me actually playing the audio, just in case anybody's wondering.
It was good.
Good. Thank you. I've been working. No one present during the session reported hearing the voice at the time, and the voice was only discovered during playback. If I could take just a moment and use this as an example and an attempt to harp on MUFON a little bit. So MUFON, for anybody who's listening doesn't know, stands for the Mutual UFO Network. They've been around since the end of Project Blue Book, which was in the 70s. And people submit cases for investigation. If you submit a case for an investigation that includes media, like audio, video, or an image, and you captured it in the moment, but you didn't discover it until later on when you're
Mm-hmm.
reviewing your pictures of video. You're like, oh, this looks really weird, and you submit your case. A lot of times MUFON investigators will discount that footage because you didn't experience it at the time that the thing occurred.
Mm,
And I would just like to say that
that's
is a
interesting.
wrong position,
I agree.
because passive captures can be supportive of experiences, but they don't have to be like I was filming and I saw it at the same time.
Right.
It just doesn't have to be that way. So
Yeah.
I would say that's true for any paranormal investigation as well. I mean, I've got pictures that I went and took a picture at an event and only realized after the fact that I caught something.
Exactly. And
Right?
what if that same type of energy exists in the UFO UAP field,
Right.
right? Where maybe it only gets picked up on infrared or gets picked up on thing, and you didn't see it because you were, had 3 cameras going.
Right. And especially at nighttime, the eyes can be deceiving. They can deceive
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yep.
Especially we've talked about it too with the documentary "What the Bleep Do We Know?"
Mm-hmm.
When they speculate that our early Native Americans may not have even seen the European ships on the
Ships.
horizon because they had no
Right.
frame of reference. So how much stuff does our minds filter out of our vision because we have no frame of reference? But a
Yep.
camera doesn't have that filter, so it
Right.
grabs it, right?
Yep. Agreed.
So, anyways, that's my. I'm off my soapbox for a minute.
All right.
Point of
Come on
order.
down.
Uh, so, some of the patterns that are across these witness accounts are shadow figures, disembodied voices, sudden emotional shifts, physical sensations, and they mainly tend to occur in isolation cells, punishment areas, and long corridors with poor lighting. Now,
Interesting.
in 1971, the prison was closed, and inmates were moved to Gratterford Prison, and then the site sat abandoned for nearly 20 years.
Wow.
During that abandonment, vines overtook buildings, feral cats lived inside, and structures deteriorated. But renovation began in the 1980s, and it reopened as a museum in 1994. And then it was designated as a National Historic Landmark. And today, you can go and take daytime tours. And there is a major historic site that is a major historic site in Philadelphia.
Great. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it is an immensely seems to be an immensely haunted site with an amazing history.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
the thing for me that just really bothers me, we talked about this a little bit in in one of our Astral Stew episodes. We talked about kind of the ethics of like
yeah.
hauntings and stuff. And like part of me wants to go, and anything that is like trapped, part of me wants to go and provide it the necessary energy for it to move on.
Right. Yeah.
But like, if I were to do that, and hauntings in the penitentiary dropped off, and then
Right.
that led to like visitation, dropping off,
off.
like would I, could they sue me for for expelling hauntings in a location? Like,
That would
just
be hilarious because I could see, 50 years from now, somebody doing a podcast on that trial.
right. Yeah, 50 years ago today, Josh Rutledge was sued for releasing spirits from the Eastern State Penitentiary. Have a
He
mugshot
said
of
the
me.
devil made him do it.
Have a mugshot of me holding one of those signs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I tell you what, it's somewhere that's been on my bucket list for a long time that I want to see. I'd like to do a night tour and a day tour. Do the day tour for the historical aspect
Yep.
of it, and then a night tour, do a ghost hunt. I think would be amazing. So,
See, what we need to do, Stefan, is you and I need to start a private investigation thing. We're just like where we just investigate cases, just you and I. Okay.
Mhm.
And then once we're established, then that gives us the ability to go and talk to any paranormal investigation group in any city, in any state, and say, hey, we want to do an investigation with you.
With you, yeah.
With you, right? And then we cover it as our private people, and then they cover it as themselves. And yeah, that's how you get the
That's how
invite.
you get her done.
That's how you get her done.
That's how you
And we're not going to do no Zach Baggins bull crap and start antagonizing these guys.
No, we're gonna set them all free and get sued.
Yeah, that's right. And which, I'm not going to lie. That would be something to go into the history books for.
Yeah. America is no longer haunted thanks to the shadow signal folks.
Yeah. All that's left is residual hauntings. Sorry,
Yeah,
people.
all that's
Yeah.
only
all
for
that's-
residuals.
Residual. And then there's a book that tells you, like a TV guide, that tells you when something is going to occur at a location.
Mhm.
Then you go and you tune in for the woman walking down the hallway and flipping on the light switch.
For the guard in the tower.
Yeah, ghostly guide or something. I don't know.
Yep,
But yeah,
ghostly guide. Yeah, it's like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but it's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Haunted.
yeah,
To the
exactly.
residuals.
How many people are going to know what a TV guide is? I wonder.
I know. Well, and then we would get a residual anytime someone read our residual book.
Yeah, that's right. Residuals for residuals.
Yep. All
And
right,
then-
let's get out of here, Josh.
And then
This
the
is getting
Ghostbuster
insane.
people would sue us because we're using the term residual.
That's true. That's true. But let's get out of here.
Yeah,
Josh. We're losing our minds. We're losing our minds. Absolutely. As usual, if anybody has been to Eastern Penitentiary, and I'm willing to bet you Keith Age has been there, excuse me, let us know your experiences in the comments or email us. Where can they email us any stories that they've got?
The Shadow Signal Podcast at gmail.com.
Booyah. So send us any, it doesn't have to be Eastern. ESP, you
Yeah,
can
me,
send
anything.
us, your regular stories. We'd love to read those on the air. They're always fun. Other than that, I definitely would love to hear in the comments any people's personal experiences with ESP, the Eastern State Penitentiary.
Not what extraordinary psychic
Extrasensory.
phenomena.
No extrasensory perception. Oh, this is why we got to go, Josh. Let's get out of here. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into the Shadow Signal. It was a great episode talking about Eastern State Penitentiary. Thank you, Josh, for getting all that information together. But we're going to go ahead and get out of here and get your appetites wet for next month, wondering what we're going to do and all that jazz. So we'll see you guys later. This has been Stefan. Stay close to the signal. This has been Stefan. Stay in the shadows and listen for the signal.
And this has been Josh. The truth is now.
All right. Good night, folks. Have a good one.
Good night.
Stay spooky.